Anyone who thinks that AI is going to take their job is right. Not using AI is going to take their job.
Today, I'm super excited to be here with Vinayak. Vinayak is the founder and CEO of B&B Me, a holiday home management company based out of Dubai that manages a large portfolio of luxury properties in Dubai.
The expectations of Dubai, the way it is as a city, it is luxury. It's super high end. It's all that glitz glam in the world. So what you can get away with in other countries, you can't get away with over here.
If you were to start all over today, knowing what you know now about this business, what would you do differently, or what would you advise yourself?
There was a handful of operators, and we had an opportunity to buy a company fairly bigger than us. We pushed a little bit too hard, where eventually we didn't get the deal.
What are some cases for AI that you think have been the most impactful, that you are the most proud of having put in place?
Everybody uses AI for revenue management. Everybody uses AI for communication. So I don't want to even talk about that because that's very vanilla and I think it's very boring.
What is a question I haven't asked that you think any operator that wants to be successful needs to hear an answer to?
The biggest challenge I see operators having is understanding that it's a thankless business, right? If you want that thank you, if you want that appreciation, this isn't the business for you because it's a thankless job.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hospitality Edge podcast, where we bring together what we think are two sides of the same coin, real estate and hospitality, and where we aim to bring together entrepreneurs, investors, founders, leaders, and operators in the vacation rental space and hospitality space so they can tell us more about their stories, the lessons they have learned along the way, as well as maybe some of the mistakes they might have made along the way so we don't have to make those same mistakes ourselves. Today, I'm super excited to be here with Vinayak. Vinayak is the founder and CEO of B&B Me, a holiday home management company based out of Dubai that has been operating for more than 8 years, that manages a large portfolio of luxury properties in Dubai. Someone that is very passionate about data and AI and using AI in their business across multiple departments, and someone that comes from the hospitality industry, comes from the hotel world as well. So yeah, just overall someone that I'm super excited to be discussing with in terms of best practices here. So Vinayak, thanks for taking the time. Before we get into anything else, if you were to start all over today, knowing what you know now about this business, what would you do differently, or what would you advise yourself on?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show, on the podcast. And if we're going to talk about failures, I don't think we have enough time. Just want to set that out there. If I have to do something differently from when I started till now, very early on in our business, we had an opportunity to acquire a competitor. When we started the business, the market in Dubai wasn't as fragmented as it was today. There was a handful of operators. And we had an opportunity to buy a company fairly bigger than us because the owner wanted to exit and get out and everything. And we negotiated too hard on the price. We were getting a good deal, but everything you're taught in school is to always try to get a better deal. And I think we pushed a little bit too hard, where eventually we didn't get the deal. But I think having had done that acquisition many years ago would have helped us where we are today. Because we're now trying to do multiple acquisitions and we're finding it a lot more expensive and a lot more difficult.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there would have been a way for you to realize that, like not in hindsight? Because in hindsight, it's always easier, right? To tell whether timing was right, whether price was right, those kinds of things. At the moment, if you were going through that process again, is there something you could have kind of done or seen or analyzed differently that would have told you, what, this is actually a fair price here?
So I think the key word is fair price. Right. And I think what we've learned along the way is that it's not about getting the best deal for myself or for my business, which is what you're taught to do. Every school you go to, every negotiation expert will always tell you, listen, you got to get the best deal for yourself. I don't believe it anymore. I think you got to get the best deal for both people involved, both sides involved. Because if you do get that and you get a fair price, not only are you going to close a good deal, but it's going to be a long-term lasting deal, right? You got to remember, if you're buying someone, you need them to be on your side for the next 5 years. And if you squeeze them, they're never going to be on your side. Whereas if it's a fair price, they're happy, you're happy, everyone wins basically. That's my learning
Hmm.
is, make both sides happy. Don't try to squeeze at the start. And, hindsight, of course, is a great thing. But on paper at that day, it still looked good. We were just educated to think, hey, got to get better.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I feel like there's always that mindset when you're competitive, and like you said, when you're taught to always try to get the best deal possible. There's such a thing as a good enough deal that can leave enough juice for both parties. So it's definitely a good lesson. So Vinayak, before we go into you know kind of like the story and again the mistakes, the lessons there, how you started, give us a big picture of where you're at today. So tell us about the operation, tell us about the company, tell us about what you're involved in to get a sense of the scope of it all.
So we operate in, we have offices in three cities. We have an office in India, we have an office in Dubai, we have an office in Riyadh. We manage properties. We have partnerships with a company where we manage or distribute properties out of London and Paris. So that's our business in total. The company was founded by my wife and I, and we still run the business together. We are looking. We're now starting to look at acquisition and mergers to grow the business non-organically, and that's what we're excited about over the next few years. We want to be in a position where we can
Got it.
actually roll up and be market leaders in this part of the world.
Hmm. And it's a very competitive side of the world, and the Middle East as a whole, Dubai in particular as well. Right now, there's so much inventory. There's so many operators. You've been doing this for long enough. You've also kind of seen the contrast. You've gone to VRMA. You've gone to these conferences abroad as well. We met in a conference in Dubai. What do you see as being different about the way you have to do business in a market like Dubai, let's say, versus how you see, let's say, operators do business in elsewhere in other markets? Are there some things that are unique about your area, your market, or do you think the fundamentals remain the same?
No, the fundamentals don't remain the same. I mean, at a very high level, yes, they remain the same. But I'll give you examples. I don't think there's a market as complicated and as tough as the Dubai market. And reasons being is globally, if you're at a tourist destination, you're not competing from a property owner's perspective with what they can generate on the long term, right? So, for example, if you're in, I don't know, let's say Miami Beach or any beach town anywhere, right, in North America or in France or in Belgium, you're not compete in the winters. You can't rent those apartments out because in the winters nobody's renting them. You can't rent them out to tenants who take them on long-term contracts. In Dubai, every property you're competing with is with a tenant who wants to take the apartment for 1 year. So there's no arbitrage in the long term and the short term. The expectations, because of Dubai, the way it is as a city, is it's luxury. It's super high end. It's all that glitz glam in the world. That's what you look at Dubai. That policemen drive Bugattis and Ferraris. That sets the expectation of a guest. So what you can get away with in other countries, you can't get away with over here in Dubai. The guest expects you to be at the car when they show up or the taxi, carry their bags up to the room and check them in, irrelevant of what time they show up. Right? A guest expects in Dubai, they expect 24-hour service. They expect if they call you at 3 o'clock in the morning, you answer the call. So the expectations of guests in Dubai are very, very high. So to get a very high review score, it's not about having a clean apartment and getting the basics right. It's about doing that extra for the guest. It's about pampering the guest. It's about making sure they have a completely smooth journey.
Hmm. And yet you've managed to do that, right? Because you proudly advertise your high review score on Airbnb, on booking.com. You've had awards on this. So talk to us about how you've managed to achieve that level of quality operationally and in terms of guest experience, despite expectations being so high.
But when we this business up, um, our slogan was "Holiday Homes by Hoteliers," and we went about setting it up that we want to make a difference in the short-term rental market. And our thought process was hospitality first. So we hired our team from the Oberoi hotels, which I believe are probably the most luxurious hotel group in the world in terms of the way they pamper you and take care of you as a guest. So from day one, our thought process has always been, how can we help the guest have a have a wow experience? And every guest that comes in, we check them out, we check a background, we spend money on knowing our guests before they come to make sure we can satisfy them with this pleasant experience. Now, that's been an investment for many years. What we've learned is if we take care of our guests take care of us, which translates to the owners getting taken care of, which automatically means the owners are getting paid more. And owners, that's in Dubai, they care about one thing: what's their ROI? There's no friends, there's no family, there's nothing else. What is my net ROI? And we've realized the way to give an owner the best ROI is by having the happiest guests. So that's our everything we do in the business is thought of. Okay, will this improve the guest satisfaction?
Mm-hmm. Which has led to you having more than 20% of your guests come back. Can you talk to us about, I guess, some of the tactics or some of the strategies
I
around,
want to
like,
correct
for
you.
example, yeah, go ahead.
We have more than 30% repeat direct bookings and repeat
More than
guests.
okay. I had 20% here in my notes from last time we spoke, but yeah, I mean, even better, 30%. So tell me more about the tactics. So, like you mentioned, you invest money in learning about your guests before they even arrive. How do you how exactly do you use that information, and what are some of the things you do that a normal operator you haven't seen them do necessarily, that have led to that level of repeat business?
I'll give you a couple of examples. If we identify a family is coming, and when they've given us their booking details, we see that they have a kid who's under 3 years old. We'll do an infant setup for them, right? So we'll put some baby shampoos in there, baby soaps in there. We'll put a baby washing setup in there. We'll put a baby crib in there. We put a baby dining chair in there, and we give them some gifts for the child, with bibs and all that kind of. If we so our definition of luxury is important to understand. The way we define luxury at B&B Me is to preempt what the guest wants and deliver it without them asking for it. Right. So if someone's coming with a 3-year-old and they go up and there's a crib, baby crib ready for them, there's a dining chair ready for them, there's special cutlery, soap and shampoo ready for them, they're like, wow, I like this. If there's an Indian family coming, we make sure we have cooking utensils suited for Indian cooking. The same with the Chinese. We make sure we have a rice cooker in there. We make sure we put chopsticks in there. So we think about what their day-to-day needs are and how comfortable they feel at home, and then we put stuff in, that helps. If we have an elderly couple coming, we put a foot massager in the apartment. If we have a corporate client coming and the apartment doesn't have a desk, we put in a workstation, like a foldable workstation for them to be able to work from. So we have a lot of thought process in who's the guest and why are they coming, and what are the small things that make the difference for them. I'll give you an example. When we set up a property, we make sure there's multi-plug adapters wherever we think they're going to set up a laptop or need to charge their mobile phone. So they can take their mobile phone and laptop everywhere in the apartment, and wherever we feel, hang on a second, this is a spot somebody would like to sit and work, make sure there's a charger over there. Make sure there's a plug point over there.
Mm-hmm.
But small things like that.
Yeah.
It's a mindset.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It makes me think of the book, Unreasonable Hospitality, right? On how sometimes people think that luxury is things that are necessarily more expensive, but it's more about being thoughtful and, like you said, doing the thing before the guest expects it. And also, like, those little things, people realize them when they're not there sometimes, but sometimes, like, when they're there, I mean, people just take it for granted because they just have the most pleasant experience. But when it's not there, when it's inconvenient, that's when they'll notice, right? And when those inconveniences stack up, then because the sign to some degree is like that, is something that makes your life so much easier. that you just go about having the most pleasant experience. But if that friction had been there, you would have realized it. So let me touch on, you mentioned the roll up earlier, and how you've grown organically up until now. um I mean, you had opportunities to acquire in the past. We talked about how that was perhaps a mistake to have try to push too hard on price there. Tell me what you're doing differently, other than looking at price, perhaps, in a way where you try to get more of a win-win for both scenarios. As far as those acquisitions, what are you doing differently now that you're looking at acquisitions?
So we're actually offering equity in the new company instead of a pure cash deal. We'll come to you and say, okay, look, we value you at $1 million. We're valued at $10 million. We'll give you 5% of the company, and we'll give you $500,000 cash. And we buy the seller into our business. We buy the seller into the belief of our business. And you know what happens? He ends up becoming a seller for our business, because every new owner that comes to him, he passes them on to us because he's vested in us doing well. And we keep them involved. We talk to them because they've all been business owners in the past. They may have a pulse, or they may be hearing something that we don't hear. So we keep them vested in the business. We keep communicating with them.
Now, when it comes to the roll-up strategy, again, you've been to the conferences, you've heard the strategies, I'm sure you've read about some of those plays go well and some of them not go as well. When you look at the roll-ups that have been successful versus those that haven't, what do you think? I mean, at least what are you trying to avoid from those that haven't been successful, in the way you're approaching your roll-up strategy?
So we're not moving away from our core. At the core, in terms of the property we take on and the people we take on, the thought process is still always, can we create an experience for the guest? So if there's a company that has a portfolio and the inventory is either not up to our standards, because we have very high minimum standards, we have brand standards. Like we have down feather pillows and duvets in every apartment. We have rituals amenities in every apartment. If those apartments aren't up to our standards, we're not gonna take it, because we don't want to compromise on the guest experience. The culture of the company has not been about guest first, hospitality first. It's very difficult to change that mindset, right? Because if they don't think about the guest experience, and their culture has been, I don't know, real estate or profit, or keeping it lean, that doesn't match with our culture, then it's very difficult to take on a company like that, because your learning curve, the adjustment in the mindset is just way too large for us to deal with. So we always keep our core the center of any acquisition. The property has the ability to us to give the guest a wow experience, and do the people we're taking on have the desire to make that guest have a wow experience.
Hmm. Have you seen situations where, like, basically you don't think a culture can be changed, right? It's probably a lot harder to try to integrate an operation into your business when you have to not only go through the normal integration pains that any acquisition or merger would have to go through, but on top of that you have to change the culture. Is that something that you would even consider, or the moment you don't see that alignment, you would kind of discard at this point?
We wouldn't buy the company if the
You
cultures are
wouldn't.
completely not aligned. We would then consider an asset purchase instead of a company purchase. And it's happened.
Hmm.
We were negotiating to buy a company over the summer, and their mindset towards owners versus our mindset towards owners was completely different. We pulled out of the deal.
Talk to us about company purchase versus asset purchase. When do what are some other examples of cases when you would go with one versus another? Sometimes I hear people talk about the fact that really company purchase you only needed when you're opening a new market, and then from there you can essentially just be looking at the assets being the management contracts that you kind of add on top of that infrastructure you have already. Like, you have an infrastructure, you have a team, you have an operation. Why would you be looking at company purchases as opposed to just adding the contracts? And I guess some examples of when you would look at one versus the other.
So our first choice is always an asset purchase. That's the simplest way. There's very little due diligence. We know what we can. We don't look at what they generate because we know what we can generate per property. So that's the fastest and quickest way to do it. Now we would look at a company if they have an IP that we want. For example, either they have good brand value, they have technology that we have, we want because it will take us too long to build or set up, and they've done it and they've done it right, or they have good people. Right? If there's a company who has a great revenue manager and he's not ready to come over unless we do a company purchase, we'll buy the company. So it depends on a couple of stuff, but in general, we would go in for our first priority is always an asset purchase. And yes, I would look at buying companies when you enter another market. And sorry, another reason we would look at a company is if we want to give that owner equity in our business. So at an asset purchase, it becomes a little more complicated to do.
Got it. Now, in terms of evaluating these businesses, right? I'm somewhat familiar with the kinds of multiples you see in the States. You're talking in some cases about let's say, I guess 2 to 5x EBITDA, depending of course on how big the the profits are and the scale of the operation and a few other variables there. But what does that look like? Are there some benchmarks that you've seen in terms of M&A transactions for the markets where you operate in? How do you go about evaluating those businesses? I mean, again, if it's an asset purchase, you're just valuating the contract. Maybe you're not looking at it as a multiple on EBITDA. So what are the ways you're looking at it?
Well, even if you do asset purchase, there's three things we look at. So we look at a multiple of EBITDA, and we convert that into a multiple of the take. So what their take rate is, what are they taking? And then we convert that into what is the cost per property. So we look at these three metrics, and if they all align, then we know it's a good deal. But yeah, if you're doing an asset purchase, at the end of the day, you really don't care about the EBITDA, but it gives you a good direction in the value of the business and what the business is actually worth.
And what are some are the ranges in terms of EBITDA multiples pretty much standard, similar versus what I mentioned, or how does it compare?
Yeah, it depends on how much the cash to equity deal, the size of the business. If someone's making $1,000 a year, I mean, you really want to understand why you're taking over those assets. They probably have really good units, but they're too small, but they're not making any money, so it's easy. You probably offer them a higher multiple to get the deal. But it's generally between 2 to 5 times EBITDA is what we look at, and that can translate anywhere between half to 1.5 years of the take.
When you say that you want the multiple on EBITDA to be aligned with the multiple on the take, which you want it to be aligned with, the cost per property, what exactly do you mean by alignment between those different metrics?
We have a guardrail. So we know that if it's okay, let's say we're buying a company and it's 5x of the EBITDA, it shouldn't be more than two times the take, and it shouldn't be more than, let's say, 50,000 dirhams per property. If all that aligns correctly, we know, okay, they tick all 3 boxes. This is the value that it comes to, whether you want to use it as a multiple of EBITDA, as a value per property, or as a value of the take, multiple of the take, it doesn't really matter. This is what we're ready to pay for the business.
Is that something you established based on looking at what other businesses sold for, or is it something you established based on a payback period that you're trying to get as an investor, or how do you? Because I guess the risk of establishing those strict parameters can be going back to a scenario where you have a good opportunity in front of you, and you kind of have this very strict parameter of how much you're willing to pay. What if you pass on an opportunity because it didn't fit those parameters? So I'm curious to know how you are establishing those parameters and how flexible you are with them as well.
Well, look, it's not me who makes the decision. So, I have a board and we sit down and we look at the opportunities and we discuss them. And you have to be flexible because every deal brings something else to it, right? Every deal has its own value in terms of what it brings. It could be technology, it could be people, it could be unique assets, it could be any of that stuff. So you have to be flexible. in terms of how you look at it. With a bit of a rubber duck, what I call. How did we come to it? There haven't been many transactions in this part of the world. We're one of the first ones doing it, and we're trying to lead the way in doing it. So you can't compare multiples here and valuations here to the U.S. or Europe, because it's not that old or sophisticated of a market. So the way we look at it is very simple. What sort of a return would this give us, and how much upside is there in the business? If we're going to acquire you, and there's no upside in the business, then we're very strict, and the multiples are going to be much lower. But if there's huge upside, we think you're underperforming and we can make your business grow much faster, then we're very flexible.
Got it. Now, in terms of like the areas of the business where you still tend to spend a lot of time in, you mentioned that you're pretty involved in everything that touches data and AI, and you're working hard on trying to use AI in your business. A lot of people talk about AI, but I don't think a lot of people use AI necessarily the way you might be doing it across multiple departments. What are some I guess some of the use cases for AI that you think have been the most impactful, that you are the most proud of having put in place?
So look, everybody uses AI for revenue management. Everybody uses AI bot for communication. So I don't even talk about that, because that's very vanilla and I think it's very boring. The AI tool, the two AI tools I'm the proudest of, and I've actually published our AI tools on ChatGPT for anybody to use, is our recruiting tool. And what our recruiting tool does is, if somebody wants to hire someone in the company, they go to the recruiting tool and they tell the tool what they want the person they're hiring to do. And the recruiting tool just keeps asking them questions until it builds a JD together. Once it's built a JD together, it spits out screening questions. Then you go out and you look for CVs. And when you find the CVs, you'll feed the CVs in screening question answers into the tool. The tool evaluates the CVs based on our company's core values, based on historic hires, based on what's a successful hire, and based on, does this candidate match the JD? And the questions they've answered, everybody uses AI to answer a question, but the tool is able to assess the depth of the prompt that they asked the question with. And have they just copy pasted, or have they actually gone back and developed that prompt or that question better? So once they fed the JD in, the CV in, the tool comes back and tells them a decision, whether they should pass them, whether they should reject them, and so on. If they pass them, the tool gives them a bunch of culture questions to ask. You do the Zoom call, you record the transcript, you feed the questions and the transcript into the recruiting tool. The tool analyzes their transcript, their video, their voice, and everything, and comes back and gives you an assessment on the culture fit into your business. And then it does a technical assessment, and then it gives you a final verdict in terms of a market study. This is where the candidate's at. This is what salary you should pay them. This is where you need to train the candidate. And this is what the success rate in your company could be. This is what their learning curve could be. This is how many months till they get fully ramped up. And these are their KPIs for the first 90 days. That's my proudest tool in AI, because we built it ourselves. And some of the people we've hired through it recently are just our best performers.
Wow. Okay. And you said it's available?
Yeah, it's available on ChatGPT. I'll send you the link later.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. And of course, it's, I guess one of the things I'm curious about in terms of this tool is, any tool is input output, right? If you put the right inputs, you're gonna get the right outputs, which comes down to like how clear you are about what you want in terms of, I guess in this case, the talent that's joining your organization. What are some of those like core principles that you fed the tool with in terms of what you want versus what you don't want in someone joining your organization?
So we have a company culture book, and we've made the AI tool learn our company culture book. So our culture is very important. We have 7 core values, and every question asked, whether it's a technical assessment or culture assessment or screening question, is tied back to our core values in a subtle way, directly, indirectly. And the AI tool, the first job is for it to link every answer and how it aligns with our core values. And the second thing we tell the tool is, don't look for the best candidate. We're not interested in you finding the best candidate. We're interested in you finding wrong candidates or filtering out the candidates with red flags. So we look for the best, we want the worst. And then we have a pool of great candidates left, which tick 7 or 8 boxes, and then we select from that.
And I can see how, I guess, from a transcript, you can get a sense of like alignment with values. How can you tell from an initial screening? I mean, what are some of those super important values that you look for, and what are some ideas you might be comfortable sharing in terms of how you can kind of get early signs of whether there's a fit for some of those or not, because sometimes values are harder to evaluate, and I guess that's why you created a tool for it, right? And I'm just curious to know what some of those values are that are closest to you personally.
So the first set of questions are match of their CV to the JD. And we have 3 to 5 screening questions in there. And in that, we check if their previous jobs match and if they have the experience match exactly to the JD that we're looking for. And in the tool, they ask you what are the must-haves, what are your nice-haves, and so on. The screening questions identify how much depth they've used AI. If somebody answers a question with zero AI, reject it. If somebody answers the question and they've used AI at a very superficial level and just copy pasted, they're rejected. We're not interested in those two kind of candidates. The first, if someone doesn't know how to use AI today, we don't want them in our business. I mean, it's as simple as that. Anyone who thinks that AI is going to take their job is right. Not using AI is going to take their job. And a candidate who's very superficial with AI is someone we don't want, because we're going to have to train them and educate them how to use it. So that's how we screen initially. And then we come to the core values where we assess, we ask them questions, what they would do in a situation which is kind of conflicting with the company. How do they create a win-win? Now, we don't win-win part of our core values. But we don't ask them win-win. We just put the situation in front of them and see how they answer that. And, a lot of candidates try to answer that, I take the company into consideration and I do everything that's in the best interest of the company, and I don't think about the guest, or I don't think about the property owner. Those are red flags. Because you have to think about the guest. Because if you think about the guest long term, even if the company loses on that one booking, it's actually a win-win because you satisfy the guest. We look at passion. Mm-hmm. Passion is a big core value of ours, and we ask them questions about how passionate they are indirectly. Make it happen is a big core value of ours. So we ask them scenarios, how they would handle certain situations. We see if they have a make it happen attitude or not. That's how the AI tool pick up in transcripts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's massive. That's massive. So okay, very very interesting. And what about in finance, right? Because again, like you said, we don't have to talk about the use cases everyone talks about in revenue management or maybe in guest communications, but you had mentioned HR, so we touched on it here with the recruitment side. What about finance? How do you use AI in your finance department?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about how we use it in accounting because it's pretty cool.
Accounting, yeah.
Yeah, so we have no petty cash, right? Our entire petty cash is managed through virtual cards, and the AI tool is fed a budget. So it knows that I'm allowed to spend this much per month on these things. And I'm allowed to spend it on certain products only. Now, if I go out and buy myself a coffee and I'm not allowed to buy a coffee, it'll detect it and it'll reject that expense. It's able to pick up what I spent the money on and straight away connect it to a chart of accounts in my accounting system. So I don't need bookkeepers anymore. I don't need somebody who's entering the accounts and the expense and connecting it to a chart of account. The AI tool does all of that. It connects expenses that we make on behalf of owners to the owner's chart of accounts. So an owner has a statement of accounts at a given point in time. It reconciles all revenue. anybody in this business knows the revenue coming from booking.com, the payments coming in are very complicated because they don't give you statement of accounts per booking. They just transfer your lump sum, and then you got to figure the rest out yourself. So our AI tool goes in and reviews all of that, connects it to the reservations, and then reconciles the payments coming in and out. So it basically just does a lot of day-to-day stuff that a junior accountant would do. Now, what you do is you get rid of the human error, and that AI tool can do the job of 5, 10 accountants. So it speeds up the process.
And I mean, for the recruitment tool, it's very clear to me how that kind of works at a high level. You know, you feed it your, I guess, your company culture book. You feed it your, you know, what you want and don't want in someone. You know, you tell it what you are looking to hire. It asks you questions to clarify who you want. And then again, it goes through this whole process you described. But here, like on the accounting piece, um, like what is it? Is this something that integrates with QuickBooks? Is it something that you know? How exactly do you manage to get completely rid of the, you know, junior bookkeeper with this setup?
So first of all invoices, bills, and anything expense you're paying for something, receipt, digitally loaded by the person making the payment. Now the AI tool backend is able to learn what that payment is for. So for example, if I buy a coffee, it knows it's for business development because of the
Is
entries
it a
I put in.
tool? Is it a tool? Is it a tool, a SaaS platform, or you develop this functionality that connects your virtual credit card with ChatGPT, OpenAI,
It's
or
a bit
whatever?
both. It's a SaaS platform, and we've developed part of it ourselves. So on the
Uh
owner
huh.
side, it's developed ourselves. So
Interesting.
if the engineering team use pay for something for an owner, they upload it into the system. The property it is, the system knows by identifying what that expense is. For example, if they bought I don't know, a light bulb, or if they bought wire, or if they bought whatever, they know it's a maintenance expense. They know what charges are to be charged back to owners, and they know what charges are paid by the company because it learns it over
Mm.
time. We've trained it over time. Batteries we don't charge the owner, light bulbs we don't charge the owners. But if the AC is broken and it needs to be fixed, it knows, okay, this needs to be charged back to the owner. But for a battery, it's a company cost. It needs to be charged back to the company cost chart of accounts.
So basically, you're looking at like this tool, and I mean, I've heard of Float, for example. There's a few like a tool that gives you a virtual credit card. You will then like export a list of transactions from that tool, import that into, you know, ChatGPT or whatever, and then from there you tell ChatGPT like this kinds of expenses. Like if it says this and that, you know, it's us. If it says this and that, you know, it's the owner. So that's kind of what the process might
at,
look
at,
like,
a, at, a,
more or
at a
less.
very at a very high level, because it's not so much about the virtual credit cards. It's more about invoices that get paid through the bank.
Uh-huh.
So we have an OCR. The OCR scans the invoice and picks out certain information, which puts it into our what we call our nerve center, which is our central brain, and that has an AI tool behind it, which then connects to the budget and know whether, okay, the payment can be approved, the payment cannot be approved. If we have a contract with somebody where we say, hey, every month they're going to invoice us for $1,000, the AI tool picks it up and says, yeah, this is the same vendor. The amount is correct based on the contract. We don't need an approval for this because there's a contract up to this date. If it's over the contract value, it sends it out to the person who needs to approve it, and they approve it, and then it goes forward. So it's an OCR that extracts the data, puts it into our nerve center, and then we have an AI tool behind it that's been learning what to do with that invoice.
Your brain center, or your neurocentral, however you call it, is that just out of curiosity, because clearly you've played around with this more than most. Is it like ChatGPT? Like you use ChatGPT as the place to store, uh or kind of like your go-to tool for some of these things, or have you played around with other tools, like Claude, or, you know, I don't know, like any of the ones that are also Gemini coming up? Have you kind of compare them, and is there one you go to for certain things versus another one you go to for other things? Curious to
Yeah,
know
so we
what
use
are some of the kind of the life changing, you know, tools that you've kind of like put in place or found that are part of your tech stack that are not part of the normal tech stack, let's say?
So look, we use Amit, Atlas, we use Cotton, we use Grok. Grok is one I don't hear many people talking about, but I love using Grok. I think it's a really, really cool tool.
Grok,
Yeah,
tell
Grok
us
is
about
by
it.
everybody's friend Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
Okay.
tool developed by X. So these
Oh,
are the,
okay, okay.
yeah. And to be honest, I
And
love it.
yeah. So to
Um,
just can you say them one more time? So you have Grok, which is the AI tool by X. Is that, I guess, is that your go to as
no, so
opposed to
It
ChatGPT,
depends what
or?
you're using it for. It depends what you're using it for. So different use cases, different go-tos. We use
Mhm.
Comet for research. If we want to research, for us, Comet is the tool. And if we want to do communication and agent stuff, where we want to build an agent, we use Atlas.
Okay, so because the sound was cutting off a little bit there. So Atlas is for agents, and then research. You said it was which one?
Comet.
Comet. Interesting. So what do you use ChatGPT for?
So Atlas is part of ChatGPT. Atlas is ChatGPT's agent.
Oh, oh, you
Comet,
see, I'm
Comet
not
is
familiar enough with this. Okay.
Comet is Gemini's agent.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it, got it. Okay, understood. Okay, so this is all very interesting. And by the way, earlier you mentioned OCR. That's just again, excuse my ignorance. Looked it up. Optical character recognition. Is this for OCR? Do you use one of these tools in particular when it comes to reading images
Yes.
from invoices and whatnot?
Yes. So you uploaded, the OCR tool is able to pick up. Okay, this is their name on the invoice, so it puts it under first name. This is the invoice, what they're charging us for. It puts it under that. This is the amount. This is the tax. This is
Hmm.
their address. So it takes the invoice and puts it into the fields we need in our system.
And which of this is your go-to for OCR, for optical character recognition?
That's a good question. I wouldn't know. My tech team
No
knows that
worries, no
because
worries. Yeah, no,
um,
that's fine. And you have a tech team. So what does that look like? I mean, for a property management company, um, it's not every property management company that has a tech team necessarily, right? How big of a tech team do you have?
so we have an in-house product manager. We have a fractional CTO, and then we work with a sort of tech vendor where we have anywhere between 1 to 5 developers working for us, depending on the project and time of the year we're at and what project we're working on. Sometimes we might just have one basic developer. Sometimes we have 5 developers.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, well, thanks for that. That was super super interesting. Now let's talk about on the real estate investment side briefly. So, you know, the way you started originally was, because you had a condo, right? Um, I guess in Dubai, and you had an apartment in Dubai. You had issues with the tenant, so you ended up putting it on Airbnb. Um, and as an investor, right? What can you tell us about sort of the lessons you've learned? Again, I asked originally if you were to start all over again, knowing what you know now in terms of the management company, the management operation. What about that same question but applied to your real estate investment career? What if you had to start all over again investing in real estate today, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
I'd buy a lot more than I did, to be honest. I
Hmm.
didn't buy enough and I sold too early, let's say. But the real estate market in Dubai since COVID has gone, it's on steroids. So anywhere from 3 to 5x from pre-COVID pricing. So if I had to go back, I would have sold every other investment I have and just bought real estate and sold it because nothing else is 5x.
But what about like if it's not back in time, it's actually today. Like it's actually today with the prices today, with the kind of a market that is around today, the prices, all of it, the kind of demand, all of it. But you know what you know now. You know what you know now, but it's actually today's market, today's landscape. Would you still go in and buy so aggressive? I mean, of course, it would take a lot more cash, but do you think it's still sort of a good window of timing there as far as going in and investing? Is there a particular asset class you would be looking at? Is there a particular sub market you would be looking at, and another one you wouldn't be touching?
So I suffer, not only me, but I think a lot of other people in Dubai suffer from what I call knowledge bias, which basically means is we've seen Dubai real estate go up and then crash and then go up and then crash, and now it's gone up at higher prices than it's ever been before. And knowledge bias means you're always concerned because you know what's happened in the past that that's going to happen again. As an outside investor, when you come in, you don't have that knowledge bias. You don't know what happened 10 years ago. So you just look at it and say, hang on a second, this place is going crazy. Buy. So I suffer from that. And if I take my knowledge bias away and I just look at the fundamentals and the numbers in terms of what Dubai is doing, prices are crazy, but they're still less than London, New York, Paris, Miami. So from that perspective, I think there's still a lot of upside in the real estate market in Dubai if you buy the right property. So you've got to buy. My belief is you got to buy what's available. You've got to buy what's ready, what's coming up in 5 years. We don't know what happens 5 years from now. It's only my personal belief. If you buy what's ready, what you can touch, feel, and see, and if that property you buy has value to it, is near the beach, is in front of the Burj Khalifa, is close to downtown, has great amenities, its location is great, the build quality is good, I can't see how you're going wrong with your investment. Everybody is moving to Dubai. Everybody wants a piece of Dubai today. There's no brand bigger and better than Dubai globally. When I travel and I tell people I'm from Dubai, you see their eyes sparkle because everybody wants to be here. Where in the world does a cop drive a Ferrari as a police car, or a Bugatti, or a Lamborghini, or a Rolls Royce? In Dubai, only in Dubai.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the brand, it's actually, yeah, it's a good way to put it. It is a massive brand in and of itself, and it's also happened super fast. I mean, it hasn't been that many years, and the growth. I mean, the growth that you have seen is just insane. And you mentioned too that you're also looking into other areas, right? You're looking at Raid. You're also involved in London. Um, I guess what kind of opportunities are you looking for in those other markets? Are you kind of trying to be in the next Dubai? I don't know if there's going to be such a thing as a next Dubai, but like when you look at your involvement in other markets, is it a way to hedge? Is it a way to diversify? Is it a way to kind of just be connected with your roots? How do you look at market diversification? Oh,
What you mean that the
hello.
Dubai brand and how fast it's come up? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. I lost you for a sec.
Okay. So I just want to close the there. Sorry, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Yeah. So I just want to close the loop on the Dubai brand and how fast it's come up. And I just want to share with everybody else there's only one reason that Dubai is a brand value and the brand value it has. There's only one reason behind it, and that's the leadership of this country. This country is not run in a bureaucratic way. This country is run in a you think of it this way: the leadership are the shareholders, and we're the business owners. If we have a problem, we go to the leadership and say we have this problem, and they solve that problem for us so that our business can grow. That's how this country runs. So they really promote entrepreneurship, and they set a set of rules, and they, you know, let you go run with it, and the sky's the limit. That's why Dubai has become the brand it has, because of one person running this country, and his vision of the brand. And we're nowhere near close to being completing the vision that he has. So I just wanted to put that out there so
Mhm.
he knows that you know, Dubai's real. What's happening here is real, and it's a lot of fun. Sorry, and your
Yeah.
question post that was,
Yeah. Just that market diversification. How do you look at it? Why also be, involved in other markets, and what do you look for in those other markets?
so I don't want to sound like a broken record, but everything we do is focused around our guest, right? So we're never going to manage in London. We're not going to look to, and we don't want to compete with the other operators in London. Why do we have London and Paris on our portfolio? Is because our guest travels there, and our guest wants to deal with us, and wants us to recommend them a place to stay in London. We have a very
Mm.
we have a very clear type of guest that we target. We're not looking for the budget travelers. We look for the people who want to spend a little bit more, who want to be pampered. Our guest has come to us and said, every year we have in the summer, hey, can you recommend something in London? Can you recommend something in London? Can you recommend something in London? And it's always been like, no, we can't, because we don't know the quality over there and we don't want to ruin your trip. Well, now we have a partner we've tied up with, where we have created the guest experience that our guest is going to have. So we've gone to London, we've gone to Paris because of our guest. Our guest has asked us to. We've heard what they want, and that's why we're there.
What is a question I haven't asked that you think any operator that wants to be successful needs to hear an answer to?
I think I think the biggest challenge I see operators having is understanding that this is a hospitality business, right? So I think any operator who it's a thankless business, right? Because you can do everything you want for the guests, and you think you've pulled all the stops, and then they just come, they stay, and they leave, and they don't even give you a thank you. If you want that thank you, if you want that appreciation, this isn't the business for you, because it's a thankless job. They will criticize you when you don't do the job right, and 9 out of the 10 of them won't even appreciate you when you do it right. They'll remember it, but they won't appreciate you. They won't tell you that. Their way of appreciating is by coming back or telling another guest to come and stay with you. So if you're seeking that confirmation, if you're seeking that verbal affirmation from them, this is not the business for you. So I didn't quite answer your question, but I hope I've been able to kind of give a direction in what kind of operators.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Definitely. Recognize it is a hospitality business. Hey, well, that's why I called it the hospitality edge.
Exactly. We're here to
But
serve.
yeah, 100%, man.
We're here to serve first.
Here to serve. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Vinayak, for the time. And this has been a very insightful and very fun conversation. And I look forward to seeing you again shortly.
In Dubai, I'm not coming to Montreal, man.
Not this time of the year. Not
Flip-flop.
during winter. Don't worry, I'll be there. I'll be there in Q1.
Excellent. I look
Have a
forward.
good one.
You know where to stay if you
All
come.
right. Yes, sir.